Bitcoin just crashed 50%. Everyone's panicking. They're saying it's never going to recover. Bitcoin's going to zero. That's what they said in 2022, 2018, 2011, and now again in 2026. But while you're selling, BlackRock just confirmed sovereign wealth funds and other institutions are buying the dip. Grant Cardone is building the biggest Bitcoin-backed real estate empire. And Michael Saylor, he keeps doing what he's doing, keeps buying Bitcoin every week. And he also just announced a new quantum security program for Bitcoin. By the end of this video, you realize why this crash might be the last shakeout and why 2026 and 27 might just surprise you. What's up, everyone? It's your boy Shubsy. All right, let's get into it, okay? Everyone's been panicking. There's been a lot going on. I know the last couple of weeks were brutal. Bitcoin's down like crazy. No one knows what's happening. It's going to zero. But check this out, right? Bitcoin's kind of been correlating with high growth software stock. So it's actually been trading like software, which is interesting. It is software, but it's not your typical Salesforce or any of these stock companies or software companies. It's a bearer asset. It's gold 2.0. Okay. This guy posts on Bitcoin forum way back in the day, Bitcoin will never reach $20 again. He goes on to say he liquidated his position of Bitcoin. There's very little upside going forward, blah, blah, blah. And of course, now we can see he sold everything at $20. Bitcoin's now at 60K, which is the lowest post-crash, 50% crash. I don't know where this guy is today, but it's just good to keep it in perspective. So look at this chart. Every Bitcoin cycle, the downside has compressed every single cycle. So 2015, it was an 87% crash, then 84%, 77%, and now 45%. So the volatility is declining. The demand is obviously increasing with these sovereign wealth funds and institutions coming in. This is basically Bitcoin maturing into a global reserve asset. I know it's, everyone's going to get on like, oh, it's not a store of value, it drops by 50%. But guys, this is a whole new asset that's being built in front of our eyes over the last 16 or whatever years. It's going to take some time to get there. The crashes are getting smaller, the recoveries are getting faster, and institutions are here. So it's smoothing out the volatility. Can that mean on the upside as well? It's going to be not as volatile going up? Maybe, yeah. So let's go back to this chart here really quick. So Bitcoin's moving exactly like software right now. That's been the story around for the last 2 years now. It's just basically exactly the same way. But I don't think this is random. Institutions are treating Bitcoin as a risk asset, just like tech stocks. And on the positive side, that means when the Fed cuts rates and liquidity kind of flows back into the system, Bitcoin's going to recover just like these tech stocks will. It's going to go parabolic, right? Or on the other side, which I think should happen, is they'll actually decouple because these tech stocks are just company tech stocks, while Bitcoin, it is tech, but it's also tech plus it's basically gold. It's the only sovereign thing that you can hold in your mind, 12 words, seed words, and and move around the world without any difficulties. And we've seen this before with the liquidity. In 2020, the Fed injected liquidity, tech stocks exploded, Bitcoin went from 4,000 to 69,000. It's the same setup, same playbook, it's just a different year.
A misperception out there that it's a bunch of hedge funds in ETFs that are creating volatility and selling. That's not what we're seeing. If you look at IBIT last week, on a week that was tumultuous, obviously, in the Bitcoin market, we had 0.2% of the fund redeem, right? So if there actually were hedge funds that were massively unwinding trades that they were running in the ETF, you would have seen billions out. We saw many billions liquidated on these levered perp platforms. The ETFs have been very steady. It's a much more long-term buy and hold type investor base.
So the ETFs aren't selling, 0.2%. So who the hell is selling? And I think Jordy Visser initially brought this up, where he talks about the OGs, the people who've held since, like this guy, right? If this guy held from 2009, the $20 guy, he is the one that would be selling right now. Because think about it. He'd have billions of dollars, and he finally has the liquidity to basically redeem that. In the past, if he did try to sell, he would crash the market like ridiculous amounts. Now there's actually demand from institutions. So now he can slowly, sell off to the institutions. So the hands are switching from individuals to institutions. So while you guys are scared, the whales are literally buying. Institutions and countries are buying right now. And then there's this guy, right? Michael Saylor. He keeps buying every single week. He announces again today. He's probably going to be buying next week, tomorrow, Monday, as he always does. And he has 717,000 Bitcoin. That's $50 billion worth. And their average cost is like 76 grand or something like that. And even though they're down 10% right now, right, because Bitcoin's around 60K, 67K or something like that, they're not selling and they're not stopping. And then Grant Cardone drops this bomb. Grant Cardone, I think everyone in the real estate industry knows him as kind of one of the biggest guys, at least online, one of the biggest investors and everything. He drops his bomb. He's building a real estate plus Bitcoin REIT. You can see here. So he's going to basically accumulate Bitcoin from the free cash flow that his companies generate, or his real estate generates, and he'll roll that up into a REIT and basically go public. And I assume he'll probably want to essentially raise money to buy more Bitcoin. I assume that's what he'll do. He's talked to Michael Saylor before, and I assume he wants to get on that same playbook. And this is the bridge, guys. This is the bridge of how trillions of dollars of boring money gets Bitcoin exposure without going all in, right? They're not going to go all in. All the money from Bitcoin, art, gold, eventually it'll flow into the best money. It is Bitcoin, but it's going to take time for people to realize that. For example, China's been buying a lot of gold, right, recently. If China tried to basically stop buying treasuries in order to buy Bitcoin, they'd shoot the price up to $10 million immediately. And we saw how gold reacted when they started buying. It shot up already huge asset. I think it was a $20 trillion asset. And it doubled it basically in a couple months. So that's the demand from a big country like China. And when that type of demand comes into Bitcoin, I don't even know what the price would be. But again, we're not there yet. The countries have to get there. The asset itself has to get way bigger. It's only $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion asset, Bitcoin. And it's just not big enough for some of these countries. For the smaller countries, yeah, but countries like China, it's going to get there. All right, I want to play this, basically going back to that point from Dan Moorhead.
Paper money is being debased at 3% every year, and that's called stable money now. Over your lifetime, that's 90%, so it's totally rational to invest in something with a fixed quantity like gold or Bitcoin. So, I really think there is a big kind of change in people's mindsets with this new, kind of ease at watching paper money be debased. And we once did a cool graphic that I think is still in our Twitter feed of essentially the price of paper money so it's US dollar priced in bushels of corn, barrels of oil, ounces of gold, Bitcoin. And that's really the story, is paper money's crashing, not that real estate's at a record high or that S&P's at a record high or Bitcoin's near a record high. It's really paper money is at a local low, but over the next 10, 20 years, it'll keep going down. So people keep cycling through, and we do track the gold to Bitcoin ratio. And yeah, gold got way ahead, but they do alternate back and forth. And actually, I think it's kind of cool that the total inflows to ETFs for both gold, old school gold, and digital gold, Bitcoin, are about the same over the last couple of years. So, markets, they kind of get excited about one thing, and it goes up a bit more, and then I think it'll cycle back into Bitcoin, and it'll catch back up to gold. And 10 years from now, Bitcoin will massively outperform gold. That's very obvious.
It's obvious to him. I don't know if it's very obvious to anyone else. But, what do you guys think? You guys think, comment below. You guys think in the next 10 years, Bitcoin's going to outperform gold? Peter Schiff would be mad at that statement. But I tend to be in that same boat. I think gold is going to do great. I think it's going to go to 10 grand, 15 grand. But I think Bitcoin is just overall going to perform better. And it'll be more volatile on the way. So you have to make sure you have maybe a little bit of both just to, hedge your bets there. But it's kind of like, which debasement tool do you really want? So if you guys remember, the crash really started when Warsh was announced as a Fed chair, which was surprising, or maybe not so surprising, because he tends to be more hawkish, meaning he wants to raise rates. In the past, that's what he's wanted. He's basically the guy in 2008 where he was like not about the life of bailing the banks out, which obviously happened. So I think after that happened, he just retired or something, or he basically just left the board at that point when he was on the board. And then now he comes back and now he's in charge. And now everyone's like, oh, this guy's the guy he'll let it all crash, right? He'll go through the Great Reset instead of printing the money. But this Bloomberg article and the economist in here, Tim said it the best. I mean, he said this could resemble yield curve control and tie monetary policy to government deficits. What does that mean? It just means unlimited money printing to keep interest rates artificially low and to manage the debt crisis. Okay. So I don't know if Warsh is gonna. I don't think he can mathematically just let it all crash. It would be ridiculously. This would be like World War II or something. Great Depression, maybe times 10. If they just let it all crash and burn. The last time basically we had this much of a debt to GDP ratio was after World War II. So U.S. debt to GDP was 125% after World War II. Now it's 121%. What does debt to GDP mean? It just means, let's say your mortgage, I'm going to use simple numbers, your mortgage is $1,000. No, sorry, I'm going to do, your mortgage monthly is $1,200. I know it's unrealistic. Nobody's mortgage is $1,200, but $1,200 mortgage, and you make $1,000 a month. So your debt to your income is 120%. So it's basically the same thing. U.S. debt to GDP is a lot more complicated than that, but a lot more factors. But just to keep it simple, we are at 121% currently. After World War II, it was 125%. So we're getting in that same scenario here. And back then, they inflated the debt away, and they're about to do it again. Okay? So you have to be in assets that are hard. Bitcoin, gold, maybe some real estate property that you actually live in and you want to live in. And Kevin Warsh, he's coming into office, I think July 2026, right? That's also midterm time. Trump is going to want to pump the markets in midterm time. He doesn't want to get impeached he wants to look good. He doesn't want to lose. He needs the economy looking good. So I think Warsh will cut rates. He's going to inject liquidity and he's going to pump assets. It's the same playbook from 2020. All right, now here's something that I think most people missed MicroStrategy during their strategy earnings call a couple weeks ago. They basically said they're going to launch a global Bitcoin security program. And I don't know, no one's even talking about it. Let me play the video here.
Strategy, we are going to initiate a Bitcoin security program that coordinates with the global cybersecurity community, the global crypto security community, and the global Bitcoin security committee in order to help and contribute to consensus and solutions to address the quantum computing threat, as well as any other emergent security threats that evolve. We think it's reasonable and appropriate for us to do this, given our large responsibility as a Bitcoin holder. But we want to do it in a very responsible fashion, and we want to make sure that we coordinate with the global cyber, crypto, and Bitcoin security community, because there are a lot of very, very brilliant minds here. There's a lot of good work being done, and it's likely a consensus will form and solutions will form at the right time in a responsible fashion.
So, I don't know. No one talked about much of this at all, but I guess essentially he's just working to figure out this quantum threat. We can call it FUD, because it really is. fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This has been there. The same argument has been there for, I don't know, a long time about this, okay? I think it's in one of the original posts from one of the OGs as well, like in 2010 or something. They're talking about quantum computing. So I think this is a good thing right here. It says 51% attack. That was the thing back in the day, market manipulation. I feel like that still comes up once in a while. Scalability, lightning stuff, right? Energy. Remember the energy and climate one? Everyone was on it. Everyone was about like Bitcoin. Elizabeth Warren, Bitcoin is going to burn the oceans or something like that. Now AI is basically consuming, I don't know, a lot more energy than Bitcoin ever did. And no one gives it. No one cares. So also that FUD was crazy because it's literally the opposite. It's actually good for the climate. Going to get into that different video. Nation state attack, that one's way over. The US is adopting it. Crypto, paper Bitcoin. So as we get over this, there's really not many arguments left against Bitcoin. But I've seen this year after year, and it's good. That it's definitely something to address. It's good to see that it's happening. Now this is a chart that I came up on my feed, and I thought it was great. Warren Buffett's quote where he says, "When everyone else is fearful, that's when you should be greedy." So guys, this is an extreme. This is the most fear. This is more fear than the COVID crash. It was a 9 during COVID. FTX was 12. That was 2022. This was 2020, 2018 during the China stuff, and 2026 now during the quantum FUD. I mean, there hasn't. Yeah, it's just quantum FUD, and there hasn't been anything that has really come out yet where it's just like it was like a company like FTX crashing or anything like that. So it's crazy. I mean, this is when you guys should be scooping up, right? 60K. I think it rebounded right off this level, but if it even goes down there or anywhere 50K, guys, this is the time to, not financial advice, not at all, because I don't know what's going to happen, but I think this is the time to be stacking. Okay, I want to end it off with this. I really like this from Robert Breedlove. He basically talks about this. I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but cash deriving from a French word meaning money box, meaning it was just redeemable paper for final settlement with the bank for gold. Okay. Now, in today's world, we obviously don't get that gold back. There's nothing backing that cash except the promise of the US, which is the US Treasuries. Now, Bitcoin is the only thing that's truly cash. It's truly a bearer asset that extinguish obligations outright upon physical delivery, preserving sovereignty over value without counterparty risk. I'm going to end it off there, guys. I think this is a great time to be buying. When everyone is fearful, you collect the cash, you sell the couch, you sell the squat rack. Just kidding, you don't health over wealth, but you basically stack up and you look back in 4 years, you're like, wow, that worked out. All right, guys, if this video helped you guys understand the bigger picture of what's really happening with the price, as well as what's happening behind the scenes, who's really selling, like the video, subscribe. I'm going to start making videos weekly again. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.